So this is me building. Oh, first, welcome to my channel. My name is Michelle. This is Tink. Let's go with that. Anyways, this is me building an art center in my legacy challenge for The Sims 4. The big thing here that I'm doing is I wanted an art studio that had a photo booth or photography station or whatever they're called in the game because I wanted to start taking pictures with my family. I'm really early on in my legacy challenge, but on top of that, I'm not planning on like recording any of it because it's just kind of like for me to have fun. Yeah, that's what's going on. So this is a speed build of me doing the art studio, which I decided to kind of expand it to not just being a photography studio, but also including like some other um, fun things for the people to do. I built this in San Machino. You can build it wherever you could place it wherever. It's not on a very big lot or anything like that. So right now I'm just kind of deciding exactly how I want the placement to go. I also realized right here you really can't walk behind these, which I have some ideas of what I wanted to do. I think originally I just wanted it to make it to where they could walk behind those buildings and maybe have like a seating area back there. I ended up changing my mind. You'll see what I do in a little bit, and what I actually wanted to do behind the studio. Um, but essentially, I did make most of the space usable in terms of, is there something you could do everywhere around the building? And so that's the case. I also, at some point, I deleted out the video because it literally is just me sitting there with the mouse moving it around radically. So I deleted it just as it's insane. But it was me deciding what was going to be placed where. So the first two buildings in the front are actually going to be little bars that people could come to and sit at and enjoy and watch the fireworks show or whatever's going on in the promenade. Um, or the people that are actually there can also go to them. I also went inside and I started doing some placement like, can the photo studio actually fit? Which is why the very first thing I tried is the photo studio to see if it fits, and it does. So I kind of left it there. This was when I decided of changing things up. Excuse me. Changing things up just a tad. So I decided to put murals on the back sides of all of the buildings because I'm like, that way, the graffiti artists can come in and actually add some nice little touches. Because the way I look at it is the studio is kind of like a universal lot where like everybody can enjoy this lot and do their stuff here. This was me working on the bathroom at this point. So put two doorways. If you start hearing some snorings, there's a tiny dog I'm babysitting who is snoring right behind me. So if that happens, I'm sorry. But yeah, here's me going ahead and adding the bathroom, which I also was trying to figure out how I wanted to do the toilets, which I did eventually decide to go ahead and have them all have. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. I have apparently really tired. They're all their individual stalls. Which one of the things I've discovered with The Sims is like you gotta be careful with your wall placement. If you put it over lights, sometimes it like hides the lights. You can't delete them or remove them. So I recommend just making sure your lights are out of the way before you place your walls, so you don't have run into any weird stuff. Uh, then this was me trying to figure out the doors, which I really liked what I ended up going with. I went with that. It's base game door. It's the door with the little window on top, kind of reminisce very much a stall to me. So I thought it looked really, really nice. The mirror, I think that's also, is it a base game? I can't tell. If I could just stop clicking on stuff, that would help. Yeah, it's base game, the triple mirror. But I do like to have my when I use that mirror or even the single one, I like to pull like the cabinets or whatever out a little bit, just so that they aren't clipping to each other. This was me figuring out the lights, which is another thing that I really liked with this build was with the lighting I did in the I guess more in the toilet area, not so much like the whole bathroom, but specifically the toilets. It was just kind of a very accent piece and everything. Then I decided in this room, since it is an art center, and the art center does require quite a bit of art stuff, like the easels and the activity tables and the woodworking tables. But I decided to kind of expand it into, instead of it just being like one of each, I was like, now this way you can go on dates and go to the art center and go painting or do your woodworking, or you can have family day here and bring the kids, because my legacy challenge, I have 3 kids, though 2 of them are teenagers. One of them is about to become an adult, so yeah, they're not going to be using the activity center. But one of them is like the dad and the daughter, the oldest daughter, both really like art, so that would be kind of something they would enjoy doing. The mother hasn't technically picked up any kind of woodworking, which is a huge handiness skill, so obviously that would be really something interesting for her. There is something for the son, the middle son, but it's not in this room. He is a musician, so I gave him an area, and then the youngest son is more of a outdoorsy person, so he might not necessarily enjoy this center, but it is what it is. Maybe he'll enjoy photography. I don't know. Maybe he'll just enjoy watching his older brother do art. You never know. Not do art, do music. Because his older brother can play, I think I have him at level 10 violin, and so I'm building up his guitar and piano skills now. So that's where he's at. And he's also, his aspiration, I think, is actually to be, no, his aspiration is, I think, the music one. It's one of the music ones. But then I also have him kind of wanting to be an actor as well. So maybe like a musical actor, kind of in that fashion. I haven't figured out exactly. I mean, he is still a teen, so I don't have to figure his stuff out just yet. So I'm in the art studio now, or excuse me, the photo studio now, trying to figure out how I want to decorate it, how I want to set everything up. I really wanted to use those new couches from Dream Home Decorator, so I used the little sectional. I thought it looked really nice in here because it's kind of like this is your waiting for when you're waiting for to take your photos. I ended up hating pretty much anything I picked for this room in terms of like the lighting stuff. So I ended up deleting those. You'll see that in a second. And I went with a I think it actually comes with Get to Work. This is the light I ended up going with. And I ended up using it for the main entrance area and then as well as the art and photo studio areas. So that's what I did with that. There you go. That's the light. I'm pretty sure it's Get to Work. Yeah, it has the little briefcase on it. I liked it that it was a warm color. Now, I probably, when I start playing, I'll actually go into this light and change some of the colorings. For an example, like the color lights. So you can only change that in live mode, which I did not go in live mode. So technically I haven't play tested this lot, but I don't foresee you getting stuck anywhere. I didn't put anything kind of like really close to something else. So you should be just fine with being able to move around. I wanted to leave it spacious enough to where, like, if you were doing art pieces or anything like that, or you added photography, you can actually hang them up here. You don't have to take them home. You can hang them up here. And it's something that also I'm thinking about doing is, again, as I'm doing Legacy Challenge, it's just kind of sharing that art throughout the challenge. And I can always come back and see like what I did with like Generation 1 and 2 and 3 and so on and forth. So this is, I know there is another art center in San Myshuno, and I was inspired by it, but it was just not, it's too much. It's too busy. And I was like, I want something smaller, really kind of like close knit. And so that's where this came from to work with. And actually, it might be a museum. I don't know. Is it an art center or a museum? It might be a museum because I know there's more art pieces the way it's put up. Because I had my oldest sim who's into art. She went there, got inspiration, did some painting because I needed her to get some masterpieces, and that helped out with getting those masterpieces done. So, what am I doing here? I think I'm just adding the waste. What do they call it? Waste deposit. And so I use I think those come with Eco Lifestyle is the dumpsters. So what I'm building up here is it's not really the bar area. I call it like the open mic center because that's what's the top spot where the stairs take you to this is where open mic night can be held, which I know I think there's an open mic night somewhere. I might be able to create an event for that. But I do want to make this to be a place where you can have open mic night and like the sun can come and do maybe pick up his singing skills, because he hasn't started doing singing yet. But that is something I want him to build up, so that, you know, I don't think there is a musical acting career or anything like that, but in my mind, that's something that I would like him to be able to do, is both sing and act. From here, yeah, this is when I decided I wanted to add a platform, which, fun fact, you got to make sure you take that roof off layer so you can actually hit things in the right spot. And then I was not a fan of where pillars landed, so I redid that area so that the pillars were in the right spot. Oh. And these actually say that they're illuminated pillars, but they don't really light up. I think I tested it a little bit earlier. You probably saw it. So you'll see later on how I kind of make it work. I didn't use any debug items on this build, which is rare for me. I almost always make my landscaping debug just because I'm not going to waste my money on a bunch of flowers and plants and stuff when they're in debug. And some of them are nicer in debug, in my opinion. But I don't know. Don't ask. It was something I did this time, is I decided to go ahead and let myself use the regular in-game stuff and not debug. It's not like if I upload it to the gallery, you can't use it because it's debug items. You can still use debug items. It doesn't make it. I do recommend making sure that you use move objects on before you upload this or download this from the gallery. Just because I have MC Command Center and I have it turned on always, so I never have to worry about remembering to turn it on. So just keep that in mind. Yeah, this was when I realized these little cute, I say cute, they're not cute, but they're like kind of really cool accent pieces where they go through the wall, and so it really was messing with the mural side on the back side, so I went ahead and I fixed it. And then I think this is when I decided I wanted to raise, was this when I decided to raise it? No, that was not. So you notice this jump that just happened, and that was because I was done for the day, and I think it was like really late that night, so I went ahead and I finished. And then the next day when I started recording, I actually forgot to start the recording right at the beginning, so I actually did the floorings and the walls when I first came in. So you'll have noticed that I'm kind of pointing out what floorings I've used in the different sections and everything. Pretty much from all over. I'll be honest, you will probably need a lot of packs to be able to download this, or if you need downloads, that will just be missing, so just be aware of that. I think that flooring, both the stone flooring that I ended up using there and the wood flooring, both come from the vampire pack, so yeah. Now I have that but I also, my legacy mom, or female, or whatever you want to say, she actually married Caleb, which is the vampire from the vampire pack, and I made him a good vampire. He's a very good vampire, and he's a great dad. And it's just ultimately he ended up being kind of a perfect match. They ended up meeting each other because they both work at the. She did the science career, and that's where she met him, was at her work. I can't remember what the name of their lab is, but it's the science lab, wherever it's called. It's where you can get the ray gun or the freeze gun or whatever it's called, and you're able to like freeze people, make them want to go to the bathroom, make them go to sleep, make them transform items, stuff like that. So you'll notice that I raised everything up, and then I added these platforms, kind of, connecting everything, because I don't know, I really wanted kind of like an accent piece. So this was adding a little bit of an accent. I also will add fountains at the front, which I really, really like how the fountains turned out. Again, it definitely helped it out. I definitely am going to be super excited when I go into live mode, because I added some of the sprinkler stuff that you can do in the fountains. And I think those are going to look really cool in live mode. So here's me adding the stairs so you can actually get up to the place. I wanted it to make it to where like there wasn't anybody like could just block you from getting into anywhere. So I tried to make it where things were very open. You will notice everything's very open. including the bars where I don't even have an entranceway. Oh, I meant to put, that was something I meant to do, and I forgot. You'll notice that the bars are open. I meant to actually put pillars in those entranceways to kind of close off the entranceways. Not close them, but like make it look like they're meant to be there. They're not just unfinished walls. So that's my bad. You'll have to add them if you want them. If you don't want them, don't add them. But I will be doing that. It's already uploaded to gallery, so I can't fix what's already uploaded unless I upload it again, and I'm not going to do that. So here's me adding more lights to the fountains, because again, I wanted to just make those a nice little accent piece. I also, you'll notice that the two bars are different colors. One's like that turquoise color, and then I have another one. The other one's the purplish, and so I made the fountains match them. No real reason other than there's two bars. Why don't we go ahead and make them different colors? So they're just a little bit different, but not a whole lot. This was me trying to add lighting and stuff like that so that we can, again, it was getting too dark in certain areas, so I wanted to add lighting. It starts brightening up quite a considerable bit as kind of I progress, because I start adding lights almost everywhere. Here's me trying to figure out the type of lighting I really wanted to use for the music center area. And I really liked what I ended up going with, which was not this. It was these, I don't know what it's called, but it's the one that hangs down. They're actually spotlights. They're stage lights. So I felt like those fit a little bit better. I also used other lighting in this area because, as you can see, it's very dark upstairs. So I wanted to change that up. Yeah, me realizing that looks really nice, and then it didn't block anything during the day, so it was perfect. It was exactly what I was like thinking in my head. That's what I wanted. So yeah, these pillars lights were perfect for what I wanted to do, because I ended up using those kind of all over the place. Yeah, this was me trying to figure out what kind of lights I wanted to put on top of the tables that I felt would match. I ended up going with, I think this comes from Garden Stuff. I believe this is from Garden Stuff. No, Backyard Stuff, I think. Yeah, there's me adding those pillar lights. I think these come from, yeah, these are base game. So I say things like, oh, they're in base game. Just be aware. If you look at it on the gallery, it used a lot of packs. So that was just what it did. So here's me kind of fixing things. Again, I'm still trying to set up the lights everywhere a little bit. This took me a while because I was trying to figure out how I wanted to light these up. I didn't hate some of the ones that were almost casting the light down, but it wasn't what I wanted, because like in my mind I'm like, artists may still come back here and paint at night, so I wanted to give them nice lighting for when they painted at night, even though in game they'll do it regardless if they actually have light. One of the things I didn't do is I didn't set up lot traits. I think something that would be really nice is if you do place this in your game, make sure you use the I think it's called like good lighting lot trait or something like that, because that will really like inspire anybody who comes to this lot to do art and stuff, whether they're doing music or the graffiti or they do any of like the woodworking or anything. So that might be really nice. It's just good lighting, because in theoretic, I added lighting all over the place, and then there's those big old windows in the front of the building. Yeah, this is me adding pathways. You'll also notice later on, and I may save this, but I end up adding some accents back there, and I'm going to be honest, I'm not 100% sure it was necessary, the precaution I took, but it was just an extra precaution, because again, I hadn't play tested this, so I'm not 100% sure what will or will not work, but I tried to make it to where it was fine. You'll notice the lighting change. That was because this is a new day. This build ended up taking me, I think, 4 separate days. I actually came in here and I built. The first day was the bulk of it, because that was placing the buildings and figuring out the structure and figuring out where everything was going to actually go. A lot of the other stuff, like the second day, was more setting up the lighting, maybe finishing some little touches like adding the fountains and stuff. And then this is the third day where I'm doing like bushes and doing the landscaping at this point. And then the last day was kind of minimum stuff. I think it took me maybe 20 minutes on the last day, which was me just doing decorations and stuff. So yeah, this was me. Something I don't like is that you can't put fences right up to the stairs. I don't know if that's true, but every time I try, I get issues. So I just was like, nah, I'll just leave these open a little bit. But you'll see that I'm not using any of the debug stuff. One of the funny things I've noticed is that I'm using, what's the name? Something Mexi? I can't remember. The one that does the debug. The tool mod, debug, all of those things. So I'm using organized debug and everything here, but for some reason, even when I don't have debug and live edit items showing, it'll still pull them up. So I'm not sure if you'll see me turn them on or off. Sometimes I think I might have edited it out, but I do have to turn it off and on just to get them to not be on display, because I don't always want debug items to be displaying, especially because a lot of those debug items are like glasses and stuff. I'm not going to place glasses, especially because as soon as you place them, they're spoiled, and then your Sims are going to be like, it's dirty in here. So yeah, I didn't do that. Yeah, this has been doing trees. I really like what I did. You'll hear me say that a lot because I really like this build. But what I ended up doing with the trees, because I used this like low fencing here to kind of do an outline. I don't like what I did here, and then I changed it. You'll see in just a second me changing it, because I ended up just doing like making it a planter with the tree. These trees also match the trees in the surrounding areas, so I felt like it just really fit. It made it just like this build was part of the area, the surrounding area, because I didn't use the same brick or anything, but I did want to use very similar kind of like structure. So like the building to the left, I think, is a karaoke bar, or did I replace the karaoke bar? I think I replaced the karaoke bar. I can't remember what's to the left. I don't remember. It might just be a bar. It might just like be a cafe or something. Yeah, so this is me adding that low fencing here. And because I'm not 100% sure, I think your Sims can actually walk over it, but I don't know because I've not tried. So in order for, Sims to not be restricted, like you wouldn't be able to get to the garbage. So what I did was I ended up leaving a gap. I ended up removing some as well to where the mural areas are behind the bars. I ended up taking the fencing off there as well. There's me taking it off. Because I'm like, oh, well, they're probably going to need to get back there as well. And just in case, I didn't want to restrict anybody. So now this is me adding these little cute pillars. Again, they're from the Vampire Lore Pack. And I really like what I ended up doing with this because it was just more like humor. I was like, oh, what's something I could put here? So I'm like looking around, and I end up deciding to go with gnomes. So I used 8 different gnomes from the seasons. I think the gnomes are from the seasons. Are they just no? They're standard. I think they come. At least they show that they're standard. I don't think I used any that weren't in the base game. I just know that they show up when you have the seasons because you get those seasonal events, like Bunny Day and Winterfest and stuff. I don't think Winterfest is. I don't think any of that's base game, but I could be wrong. But I'm pretty sure that's only in seasons. Yeah, this is me adding more landscaping over here. The reason why I really wanted to do landscaping over here is if you noticed, and I don't know if you did, but as I was adding the fountains, it raised the ground right there to meet it because it was raised up with the foundation. And so I wanted to kind of hide that a bit. So I added these flowers and these plants and stuff. So that way it wasn't so obvious that there was a raise right there. So it looks a lot more natural. And I love these plants, these like kind of bulb trees or whatever they're called. Um, and I really liked what I did to this because I made so these gnome statues. I have them like all separate, and I was like, well, let's just connect everything together. And so I connected them together using these plants, the kind of like hedge bushes, uh, and then that way they're connected. I end up also using it's from the holiday pack, the string lights, to also add a little bit of touch to them. I think this is me doing it right here. Yeah, so it took me a minute to do all of this, but I thoroughly enjoyed adding lights to the game. In the different areas of it is a lot of fun, but sometimes it can be tedious, especially because you want to put it in the right spot and everything. So it takes a moment. I do like to decorate and everything, but again, it's very tedious. But ultimately, that's like the whole point, right? You're building because you want to enjoy it. I'm not the greatest builder and I'm not the greatest decorator, but I enjoy it. And I think that's really all that matters. Um, so, and as I said, the whole point of this build, funnily enough, was for the photo studio, which I probably the least amount of time on. I don't even think I've added a whole lot of decorations to it because I wanted to keep it simple. Because again, the theory behind it is as you're taking photos in the photo studio, maybe you want to put them up in the photo studios because you know how like when you go to things like photo places, they'll have shots from previous clients and things like that. So that's like my thought process is they'll show like this is how well we do our photography here, and all of that. I think what I ended up spending the most amount of time in decorating was this top area because of the fact that I really wanted the stage to be accented. And it reminds me a lot of like those open mic nights where it's just like these string lights and everything. There's also this area, I live in Houston, and there's this area called the Heights, and it reminds me a lot of like those little bar areas because they're all very like kind of like small indie. I hate to say it, but hipster bars, and it very much reminds me of those, especially because in a bit. I don't know if it's just now. Yeah, this is the next day. This is when I start adding in decorations. So you'll start seeing me add. I think I start with still adding some additional plants because I knew I hadn't finished this little area. It definitely felt very bare. But the way I looked at it was people are going to walk back here, so the grass is probably going to get, trampled. And so I use that terrain paint. But in a little bit, you'll start seeing me start adding decorations and everything. So I start adding paintings and everything. Sorry, you may hear me just pause there. I heard something outside my door, and I was just making sure it wasn't my dad coming home. Because he went grocery shopping, and obviously I'm going to need to help him pick that up. And so I'm trying to get this recording in before he gets back home. It sounds like he's back, by the way. So yeah, there's all that fun. But yeah, so we got some more plants. There's not much for me to talk about here. We're putting plants down. That's all I'm doing. And I end up doing the exact same thing on the other side. Nothing special. Nothing standing out here. But I did enjoy doing this build. I'm not a community lot fan in terms of like I'm not good at building community lots. But this was me trying to do something different. I did watch a video the other day. If I can remember who it was, I'll put it in the credit. I'll put it in the description down below. But it was about like different ideas for museums, and I really loved some of those ideas. Like there was like a space museum, and then there was like a paranormal museum, and then there was like a scary museum. So it had all like the spooky stuff and vampire, and I think some Stranger Things stuff all in there, and I thought that was really cool. But I really like the space museum, which I think might be something we will build when my main sim of the Legacy Challenge, like the original sim, I guess, when she retires, I might have her she might make a museum because she did a science career and she has rocket science stuff. She never was became an astronaut. They did ask her, but I didn't want her to become an astronaut. She's really into her family. Like that's one of her traits is like she's very family oriented, and I didn't want her to be away from her family for too long. So we kept that. Yeah, this is me adding the art now. And in just a moment, you'll see me adding just a couple of pieces to the photo studio, and that's literally it. And then I get back up to the main art area up at the top. This room was hard for me to figure out the rug I wanted to do. I looked at like almost all of them before I was like, ugh. And then I ended up going with, let's see if we get to it. Here it is. Not that one, but this. I know it's more of a wintry feel, but it reminds me of like when you go into like really fancy places. They don't necessarily have rugs right there. They have like that super tile, and this is just giving it like a little bit of an accent piece in the main entranceway. Because this entranceway is just as it says, this is an entranceway. I meant to actually put like a little couch underneath those two art pieces, but I forgot. So feel free to add those as needed. This ended up being well over 100k simoleons, so it's not a cheap build by any means. And I did use a lot of items in this build, so there is that. I ended up also using that from Eco Lifestyle, which I really like this piece. Like it's just super cool. I ended up using it on another build. It's on my gallery. Are those not in this? Those not even. Don't tell me they're not even. Okay, my dad's home. You probably heard some dogs barking. They're not even. That's driving me crazy. Oh my god, I'm going to have to fix that. So I'm so sorry for anybody who ends up going onto that build because that is uneven. By the way, I usually do record with my door shut, but because I'm babysitting a dog, that is the reason why my door is open and it has the dogs here. Although my two dogs are both passed out or being really quiet, so they're not making any noises. That was just the adopted dog. I'll go help him in a second, but we're almost done with this recording because we've only got like maybe a couple more minutes. I think like 4. Because we're almost at the end of the build, and then you'll be seeing my final product, which I will leave you to just seeing it. With probably no music behind it because I didn't include any music in this. You're just hearing the sound of my voice while we do the recording. It keeps it so that I'm not worrying about any of the copyright stuff. So it's just like, here you go. Here's the things. You get to hear dogs barking. Then instead, that's what I will give you in exchange. As well as I'm doing this recording and seeing this build for the 50th time, noticing the stuff that I missed, like the steps, not the steps, the couches that I wanted to put in the entranceway, or the fact that I didn't put those two art pieces in the studio even, which I cannot believe I did that. And then there was one other thing that I was like, oh yeah, you might want to add that if you want. It's up to you. But as you can see, I'm adding more to the music center because, like, well, this needs more. So I'm adding plants because it's outside. You know, outside you're gonna have plants, and I liked adding this again from Eco Lifestyle. I really liked the plants that were from Eco Lifestyle and the artwork from it. I just think the decorations from that section, that pack was very nice. I think I'm trying to add. Oh, here you go. This is my little trick that I ended up doing. I think this light is actually expensive, but it illuminated exactly what I wanted, which was in a 360-degree radius, and I could hide it right into those pillars. And then here's the final view. So I'll leave you to it. So we only got like a minute left before the video's over. So I just wanted to say thank you for coming to check out my video of building this art center. If you are interested in getting it, it is on the gallery under my Origin ID, which is LV Tink. And feel free to pick that up. You also have one other video on this channel, which is a build that I did for Fake Gamer Girls Million Simoleon Challenge. So feel free to check that out. It's the only other video on my channel. And I think that is it. Thank you again, guys. I appreciate it. Hopefully, I'll see you guys in the next one. But this is pretty much the end of it. Thanks, guys.